It's too real.
Let's get it going. This should be a fun one. Hopefully it's a fun one. In the bottom right side, looking at the main base of the Dutch Terran player, of course, representing Team Liquid, it is uThermal.
And his opponent in the northwest, we have the red Protoss player, the German. He is ShoWTimE.
Wardy already kind of mentioned this, that ShoWTimE, of course, had a great performance against Marine Lord. He was able to take that series 3-1 yesterday, but I actually felt it was kind of uncharacteristic the way that ShoWTimE played. He made a couple of move outs, sometimes without a War Prism, put himself very deep in enemy territory, which either shows that he is incredibly confident in his ability to get the absolute max value out of his army, and just knows that he's not actually overstepping any boundaries, or he's just kind of becoming a wild boy, Nate, and he's willing to take a few more risks than he was willing to in the past.
Yeah, and that's always an important thing. You know, when we talk about what allows players to kind of break out of their own stereotypes about the way that they play, it's always an interesting discussion, because we have, you know, guys like uThermal who've kind of been mixing it up forever, and some people might say, hey, that can actually be a part of the problem. Some people are very try to be hyper aware against him. He doesn't always get away with the shenanigans, whereas, you know, ShoWTimE can have like more vibes like classic Serral, right? Where everybody's like, okay, can he throw in a cheese though if he needs to? Is he being too predictable? And when ShoWTimE brings out an aggressive build, I personally find it very fun to watch, because you get to see that really good control that he's typically using defensively in a much more, shall I say, exciting manner, bringing it to the opponent. However, we're going to have a crazy fast drop play with this proxy starport. Very likely to see him go over and build Hellions and possibly Mines as a follow-up, but I assume it's going to be a 4 Hellion drop. So I think, Kev, you know, this could be a build of Protoss nightmares if not defended against properly.
I almost feel like this is so predictable, though. When you scout a Terran on one base right now, and you know that the factory is at home, which is something ShoWTimE has already confirmed. Look at where this Adept is going. It's like, well, where is the proxy's target? Oh my goodness, he might be able to cancel this. This could be a very short game. Oh, you kidding me?
Yeah, well, it doesn't get too much worse than that. Even if these 2 Hellions kill the Adept, I don't know that it really matters, because just the delay alone on that is catastrophic. I don't think. Does ShoWTimE have anything to like try and... No, I mean, the starport should finish, right? I wanted to dream about a world where he kills this next SCV, but I don't think that world exists, because all he has to do is take the wrapping off.
Yep, I knew you were going to say that. Just the wrapping paper. I remember that from our WCS.
It's one of my favorite little casterisms I throw in there every now and again.
I know, and it always stuck with me, Nate. I actually thought that if he would have kept the Adept around, like, you were going to lose it, but then I think the second Adept at least kills off the second Hellion, or gets an even slightly bigger delay on this starport. But maybe ShoWTimE just felt like, no, I don't need to do that. I don't need to take any risk right now, because I know that this is already very good for me. Not only am I on 2 bases, you're on 1 base. I have scouted your opening, and I'm going to be more than ready. I find it kind of crazy that he doesn't have his shield battery in the main, but maybe ShoWTimE is just like, no, I don't need a shield battery if I have 2 oracles, but oracles activate pulsar beams. ShoWTimE only activated 1 pulsar beam, by the way. That was very well done. That's still insane, right, to not see a shield battery in the main.
Yeah, it's such a gutsy way of trying to deal with this, right? It's like going for 2 oracles because you know killing the medevac doesn't help you. You need to eliminate the Hellions, but Hellions are still going to get some damage done here, and that is still quite brutal, because you know the oracles limited by their energy for the attack. The Hellions can kind of hide in there while the oracle's energy burns out, and then as they hit 0,
on the other side of the wall,
Hellions again and try one more time.
Yep, he should drop it on the other side of the wall. There's no energy. No, why doesn't he drop? What?
Really?
What?
He's let it die? Okay.
That is shocking to me. I think if he unloads the Hellions, obviously you don't want to unload them in the mineral line, but even if he would have, it would have been really awkward for the Adepts to really get in range. The Adepts would be blocking each other one by one. There was only a single Phoenix out. uThermal could have at least killed 2 more probes, if not 4 or 5 there.
Definitely a missed opportunity. If the Hellions are going to die, which they pretty much you're not really going to be able to save them almost in any scenario. You might as well drop them in the base instead of letting them die in the medevac.
Yeah, I mean, they were always, I mean, now they always die and they don't get anything. I feel like if he would have dropped them on the top side of that Stargate, it becomes really annoying for ShoWTimE to deal with that. There was no energy anymore for Pulsar Beam. Wow, that must have just been a misclick by uThermal. Maybe uThermal thought he dropped them, and then he's like, I'm going to shift-click the medevac away, so the Phoenix has to choose. Do they want to lift one of the Hellions, or do they want to chase my medevac? Yeah, he didn't drop them. Oh, that's very painful.
Yeah. Could have gotten so much more damage done, and now he finds himself down 13 workers with the third Nexus completing. So that means the saturation on this base is going to be hit crazy fast. This one Hellion won't do anything with the shield battery there. So now you find yourself as a Terran player asking, okay, what is my biggest opportunity to actually get back in this game? Because everything here looks fan-freaking-tastic for ShoWTimE from my perspective.
Yeah, I think uThermal's just going to try to get +1 on his bio, then run to the other side of the map. I'd be surprised if uThermal feels that this is an okay game to drop a third command center. We know that uThermal is no stranger to all-inning. You know, if he feels like it's the right thing to do, he'd gladly go for it. He's also willing to pull the boys. I honestly think that this game is too difficult to play out from this position. It's obviously not impossible. ShoWTimE takes a very bad fight, but I find an SCV pool a little bit more likely than ever going up to 3 bases here if you're uThermal.
I completely agree. Stim's finishing, combat shield's done, +1 attack is halfway ready. Your best opportunity to strike when the Protoss has this kind of economy rolling against you is to hit before they can get big tech. If you could get all this bio onto the Stalkers, they rip it to pieces. But the Sentries, that's what their job is. The Oracles, I believe, put out a couple of stasis traps as well. Good revelation.
Oh,
I mean,
can I save the
ShoWTimE is
Oracle?
doing textbook ShoWTimE things. Losing that Oracle, I don't even think that's the biggest deal. If he can't go up this ramp, he can't really do anything.
Well, uThermal scans the army and he's like, you know what? I can't actually fight it right now. What I really love there is that ShoWTimE moved his army forward to pick off the individual Marine that was a bit ahead of the pack. So that Marine wouldn't activate the stasis trap, but maybe the entire army would have. Even though it didn't play out like that, I still love the play. uThermal is queuing up Liberators now, and maybe once the Liberators show up, that's when he's really going to go for it and pull some boys as well, because I don't see any signs of uThermal. Well, I want to say that I don't see any signs of him willing to transition. Then he takes another gas. He's up to 4 gases now, as we seem to have a lag spike in the game. I don't know who it is. Nathanius! Are you still with me? So that's why he was that quiet. Alright guys, it seems like Nathanius is having a minor internet issue. Hopefully he will be rejoining us soon. As soon as... yeah, that's the face that I would make as well, Nate. Sorry, guys. But come on, production. You can't do that to me. That is literally my face when I lag in video games as well. So we're going to wait until Nate rejoins the call. He should still be able to cast the game with me as well, because we also have a little production preview. And as soon as Nate is out, the action will continue. I believe Nate is almost back. I see Tunit. Yeah, I see him move. I still think uThermal's gonna all in this game, guys. You know, no matter how we spin it, the Dutchman is in all sorts of trouble. Down 17 workers and down a base. But he just took another gas. Why do we take another gas if we want to all in? I want answers. You know, while we're waiting for Nate to rejoin the call and the game to continue. For some reason we can't drop him. But we're gonna figure that out.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
My computer just literally restarted out of nowhere. I actually have everything set to default, so I don't know. For some reason, when I have the video feed open for our show and I'm in the game, it just randomly crashes. Sorry about that.
It's all good. It happens. Technology, online show, Nate. We are currently waiting to get you out of the game, and it seems like nobody is able to drop you. It just says we're waiting, but hopefully we can continue the game soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Indy just wrote in the game, Nathanius is undroppable. Well, that's what 7 missile turrets do to you.
Every time this happens, I like uninstall and reinstall everything, and then it's like, nope, no, you're halfway through the day. Sounds like a good time for it to explode. So I'm like, okay. Sorry about that. Hopefully
maybe we need Kratos. Okay, You're out, Nate. We can actually continue the game.
Thank God for that.
While we are waiting to continue this game, I do want to go back to our previous series real quick. I forgot to mention this in the break, but I think it's worth mentioning. This is now already Skillas, his best career performance. He dropped out in the group stage of DreamHack Masters summer. He made top 12 in fall. He's top 8 now in winter. So well done to Skillas for improving his personal best. And he's obviously still in the running. We continue, Nate, and uThermal is going to drop a third command center. And
yeah, not too many other options after that, the attempt on that attack, right?
Well, you can still 2-base all in with Liberators and then the boys.
It feels so risky after the first hold, though. Like ShoWTimE's building up a pretty nice army, but
I mean, you don't think I think it's just as risky to go up to 3 bases now while you're down 18 workers, and technically you're down in economy as well because Colossus are already on the way, and other than a couple of Liberators that obviously don't have advanced ballistics, uThermal doesn't have much going for himself.
Yeah, I guess looking at this, I'm trying to see what the best move is. I'm not sure that there really is one. You have to, at this point, with the way that ShoWTimE has just played and started this game, you need him to make a mistake. You need him to slip up somewhere to be able to break this, right? And I guess that's the bigger thing is uThermal just needs to stay on the map and try to find that opportunity if it presents itself before all of these things snowball into, like 3 Colossi with range and you're not able to take a good fight. There's the Liberators sieging up and he's going to chase him up the ramp. This might be where you can find a bit of opportunity. That Colossus does not have range, by the way, so he can't really do any kiting on this bio.
I still like the way that ShoWTimE is handling this so far. He knows that every second that goes by is a good one for him. He has plenty of shield batteries to fall back to. He has to be a little bit careful with the Zealots because that is a ridiculous amount of Wither Mines. So the Zealots don't really want to charge in there and die, but I think uThermal also knows that ShoWTimE is a very patient man. Right when I say that, he steps into 4 liberation circles. But I think as long as he picks up the Liberators one by one here, I think ShoWTimE should be fine.
Yeah, of course, the Liberation Zone is going to be very hard to attack into with Widow Mines underneath. But now you've got the Colossus range. 2 of them on the field is going to help a lot. The Disruptor, of course, is always going to be useful for trying to push some of this back. Although, if you get enough Liberators and you can push up with them, we know that they're among the strongest. I mean, they pretty much are one of the strongest units you can have in this army. As a couple of them unsieged, the Protoss army steps forward. So ShoWTimE wants to try and clear a bunch of this out. That even just 2 or 3 liberation zones are going to deal catastrophic damage to the units underneath. So he needs to be careful with the approach. Still, a tremendous amount of Stalkers are alive. And we start to see where ShoWTimE, having all the ability to put these units out, gives him the economy and the overwhelming force to win game number 1. And I mean, just from the moment that proxy starport gets shut down at 99.9%, there's just only so much you're going to be able to pull off from that position.
Absolutely. A beautiful display by ShoWTimE there in the end, because if you take a very bad fight there, you can throw away your lead. If the Zealots just kind of charge in, and they all get blown to pieces by the Wither Mines, and then you blink your Stalkers in, you kill 1 Liberator, but you're like, uh-oh, it's too much damage from the Marauders and Liberators, and then you retreat. All of a sudden, it becomes pretty dicey for you as a Protoss, but if there is one thing we know that ShoWTimE is not short of, well, besides sex appeal, of course, it is definitely patience, and he just displayed that.
Well, I can't disagree with either of those points, Captain. He looked good. He looked good in multiple ways in that first game. With just an absolutely dominant performance there. When the Terran player is going back and forth and is like, all right, I'm going to start a 3rd command center. All right, I'm going to try to do the game-ending attack. You can really see that uThermal felt like he didn't have any good moves he could make from that position.
Yeah, it's a very funny game because there's actually a couple of interesting talking points. First of all, disastrous start. Then I did like the way that both players handled the initial skirmish in the main base. uThermal dropped the Hellions. He sees that the Oracles activate Pulsar Beam, or at least only one of them, which is a great play by ShoWTimE, because if he does it on both, it actually becomes a very difficult defense. So ShoWTimE makes a great move, then uThermal picks up the Hellions. He makes a great move, drops them a little bit later, gets a couple kills. Second Oracle activates Pulsar Beam, picks them up again. I loved all of that. But yeah, then the misclick, which it must have been a misclick, where he didn't drop the remaining Hellions. Otherwise, if he gets like 5 additional probes there, Nate, I do think that we are casting a different game. And then if uThermal makes a similar push, it becomes much more difficult for ShoWTimE to hold it.
Yeah, well, we're loaded in to game number 2. And I do completely agree with you on those points. So by the way, we have in the bottom right, the red Protoss player leading 1-0. He is ShoWTimE.
And in the top left side, we're looking at the main base of the Dutchman, who's hoping for a better start to this one. Representing Team Liquid, it is uThermal.
So, Probe Scout coming in nice and early. Makes sense that ShoWTimE wants to be aware of whether or not, I think really importantly, that second gas is going to be taken early on by uThermal, because even if whatever it is that you want to do as a Terran, if you're not going for a Reaper expand or any sort of like quick 1 racks expand, you need that gas early on. And is this spray a number 2? Is that silver metal? They really do. They really do let masochists go all out in this game. They would let you have a spray you can put that's like number, I guess because it would make more sense to put that around the enemy's base, right? Like you put that right under the Nexus and then it looks like they're wearing the second place. But to put it next to where his own base will end up being really says a lot about how much a person maybe hates themselves. Well, as a memer, I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
I have never seen that spray. Every single day.
I didn't even know that was in the game.
Yeah, whenever I play Star, I'm like, how many of these things do we have? Sprays, portraits, emojis, and I'm like, I see something new every single day. I've never seen that one, but it is kind of funny. Is there also one with a gold medal? Can you hang that around your own Nexus?
See, these are the questions that I ask, because, you know, you can't actually set 2 different sprays at once, but they changed it so that your decal, like the little Protoss face next to ShoWTimE's Nexus here, you can always spray your decal. So it's, I haven't seen anyone come up with like a combo of them, because you can spray both of those things. But yeah, the spray meta continues to evolve, especially in the NA region.
Yeah, it's so annoying whenever you play M Canning and he opens up, sends the probe to your main, sprays 3 times the Colossus, good luck and fun in your base. I'm like, man, now I gotta stare at this for the rest of the game. I've never told him, but it really annoys me.
I don't know if you saw, but in game 1 of Scarlet versus M Canning, she sent a drone scout that only sprayed, and it never left M Canning's base until he killed it like 7 minutes into the game. It must have sprayed like 30 times, not exaggerating. It was just downright, it reached the point of just like everyone's like, okay, really? Like, you let the drone die?
ShoWTimE's gonna open up with the Twilight this game, so no Stargate, expecting Blink here, of course. Blink is very strong defensively. For a little while, we kind of only talked about it offensively. We're like, it's the parting 4-gate. And obviously it was popular in Europe for a while, but I still believe the true power of Blink is just in the map control and kind of just getting a couple of observers out. If you get pushed, you can start kiting that army, shave away a couple of Marines before the push arrives. And it's, of course, fantastic against Withermind drops, Hellions, Liberators. Blink is just really solid all around.
Yeah, it's never really a bad move, because it's great defensively and aggressively, and even just repositioning between your bases if you're anticipating a drop coming, if something gets blocked, if those Hellions get dropped on the other side of a wall, being able to get there to deal with them faster is always going to be important. And actually, even speaking to that, you know, you see people blink Stalkers to block the pathing of those units sometimes if that ends up being a thing that can happen. Although usually the Hellions are dead by the time you've got blinked up.
Good job by ShoWTimE so far, really denying these Reapers and Hellions entry into the main base. The Twilight Council hasn't been scouted yet. Now, maybe uThermal is expecting it, because this is a good map to open up with Blink, and B, there were quite a few Stalkers out there already, so that's perhaps a little too much for a Stargate opening. But it's still nice to prevent these units from entering your main base. Now, uThermal's opening up with the Cloak Banshees. I am very curious to see if he's going to send his first Banshee in and try to deal damage immediately, or if he's gonna wait until he has 2 Banshees and then eventually show up while maybe pushing to the other side of the map as well.
Yeah, there's a good bit of multi-prong you can do with that too, right? Because the other thing about the success of Banshees in the TVP meta, especially lately, has come out of waiting for 2. And if there's no shield battery, of course, Banshee will kill a probe in 2 shots, but it doesn't have the DPS to kill probes really like under those. So it comes in, it's going to get probe, and then very quickly pushed out by the Stalkers.
Yep, a really good defense so far by ShoWTimE, as always, I'm almost inclined to say. But yeah, the hallucinated Phoenix Scout really helped there. Seeing that starport still with a tech lab, seeing the tech lab spinning as well, that's going to give him the heads up. He's like, it could be fake, but I'm going to take it serious for now. He took it serious and barely took any damage. uThermal is playing a very macro-oriented game this time. He's going up to triple command center, and ShoWTimE is just going to add more gateways and charge. I wonder if we're going to see one of these crazy attacks that quite a few of the Protosses have done in the European scene. Geralt yesterday, Hellraiser early today against Hero Marine. Because against these kinds of openings, they're pretty damn strong.
Yeah, these are, there's just so many different things that you have to always keep in mind. And what I found most interesting about this game actually was just how the greedy setup that uThermal is going for behind that Banshee Harass. He's already got the third command center completed, turning it into an orbital. He's gone double engineering bay versus Protoss. In usually it's just really hard to hold off a lot of types of attacks if you play greedy like this. But because the Banshees are designed to keep the Protoss at home, or at least force them to stay honest and not send everything across the map, it opens the door for you to be a little bit greedy. Although, you know, when the Banshee flies in and kills one probe and dies, you don't necessarily feel that way anymore.
Nope. War Prism is already out. I actually think if ShoWTimE attacks uThermal right now, I think uThermal's in all sorts of trouble, man. Like, Stim only just started, Combat Shield only just started. ShoWTimE did take his extra simulators. It was kind of maybe a backup plan. It's like, let's see, if uThermal actually turtles on 2 bases but 3 CCs for a long time, I won't attack him. I'm just going to drop a Robo Bay, a second Robo. But if he does start mining off 3 bases a little earlier than I feel like he should have, I'm just gonna attack him. uThermal has absolutely no idea about all these units that are out on the map. I don't see any bunkers. Well, in all the previous days, this was a game-ending attack. Let's see how it goes this time.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky to deal with. Stim and Combat Shield are not ready. Neither are any of the upgrades, so it's just a bunch of unupgraded bio with some Medivac support now. The Dorito Cannon here could end up being really big with the bonus damage onto the charge lot, onto the Stalkers. They're going to blink forward. Guardian Shield does get popped, and the Zealots have made it on top of the bio army. The Force Fields are going to try to drop the units behind it, but the Warp Prism kept. It's still there. The Terran army supply continues to dwindle, and it's going to become even more difficult to deal with, of course, once the anti-armor debuff is gone.
Yep, I mean, there is no bunker here. One bunker really would have made a pretty big difference once again. ShoWTimE should probably wipe in a few more Zealots. I love that blink as well. Picks up those Widow Mines, gets some Marauder there as well. The Medivac feels very exposed. I'd say snipe those Medivac, ShoWTimE. Hope he doesn't care, he rather gets the Marines. This is already a ridiculous amount of damage, but I think ShoWTimE can still get way more done, because he can easily warp in 6 or 7 Zealots.
Yeah, it's worth considering that all those upgrades did finish now, so that it, even though he took a tremendous amount of damage, I don't know about finishing blows just with the power spike the army just got off of, you know, 1-1, Stim, Combat Shield. But if anything, ShoWTimE certainly kneecapped him, that's for sure. Because with how greedy this build was to get the economy up, you know, only being 7-8 workers ahead, I guess, is really not that mind-blowing difference.
No, I'm actually very impressed that uThermal was producing SCVs non-stop during all of that. He lost 17 SCVs and he's barely behind. If anything, he's even ahead economically. ShoWTimE had 900 minerals there in the bank at the end, when uThermal clearly was running out of steam. A lot of the units were low on HP, the SCVs were low on HP, the Medivacs were running out of energy. I honestly felt that one more wave of Zealots would have been the tipping point, and then all of a sudden the bio can't fight anymore, it's being overused. Now I actually don't hate this position for uThermal. I'm not saying that he's winning by any means, but it's definitely a very playable game.
Yeah, no, he should have been dead after an attack like that, right? But just the fact that he was so tenacious with, as you said, SCV production, using the third early command center, he did not miss any production waves prior to the attack, and then just building through, not getting overwhelmed or you know, shook up, knocked off of his feet by the push. Very impressive to see that he was able to allow this game to keep going, honestly, because this Protoss 4th base is not the fastest. And
nope.
If uThermal wants to take a 4th, he probably could while he gets this Ghost Academy and the rest of his upgrades. Like, he doesn't have to attack anytime soon, but obviously, if he wants to do that, I don't think he's in a bad position to try and bring some pressure either.
But ShoWTimE needs to be careful with his Warp Prism. Now, I'm totally with you. I think it comes down a lot to the EMPs, right? Like, we already have 5 or 6 High Templars out on the field. Storm has been chrono boosted, so it's about to finish up. And obviously, down the line, we're going to get the double Robo Bay action kicking in as well for ShoWTimE. So I think it comes down to execution at this point. Who's willing to take a big fight, and who's gonna land the better spells? Are we going to see the EMPs reign supreme, or will ShoWTimE still be able to land a couple of marvelous storms?
Yeah, that's going to be a very important thing to keep in mind. We also have now double Robo Colossi production. So it's not just going to be about the EMPs. If this game continues to progress, we're going to need to have the Viking count ready to knock down those Colossi, and also a good balance of keeping the medevac count up, finding a way to work Liberators in, even while there's Colossi that are being added, because we know those are so crucial and important for locking down the positions that you want to lay siege to as a Terran. And since that 4th command center is very well along its way, I mean, we're setting ourselves up for a nice long macro TVP, and I'm all for it.
You know what I think is really funny is that each and every single time I saw an attack very similar to the one that ShoWTimE just made, I'm like, I don't think it's gonna work, kept on working. And then this time I was like, yeah, I guess it will work, right? Like it worked earlier today with Hellraiser against Hero Marine, and then uThermal was like, no, I'm gonna hold, and I'm actually gonna be in a fine position afterwards. And I bet ShoWTimE is also sitting there, it's like, why does everybody else win with this attack and not me? Maybe it's because he wasn't committed enough, because he did already take a 5th and 6th gas in that he wasn't using, but he still spent money on it. And then on top of that, obviously, uThermal made a couple of very strong defensive moves, picking up the bio after it got force-filled in, also microing his bio units behind his tanks, because even though Zealots are good against tanks, if the bio unit can just... Oh, the Warp Prism! Oh my goodness, no! What? ShoWTimE just lost a Warp Prism with 4 High Templars inside of it. Oh my goodness.
And the way that this army comes down the ramp is actually giving the concave to uThermal as well. The army very spread out against the few Colossi that are on the field. ShoWTimE with a very uncharacteristic mistake that may cost him dearly here in game number 2.
I saw the armies getting close, but I was like, ShoWTimE is obviously busy sending Zealots on the other side of the map, so he's gonna take it easy. Well, he didn't take it easy. ShoWTimE's got 2,000 minerals in the bank, 84 probes, only 8 gateways, can't spend his money. This is very uncharacteristic. He wiped in a couple of High Templars, but I don't know if he's gonna get enough time to get those storms out. Sick EMP by uThermal.
Yeah, landing that gnarly EMP, gets another one on the Stalkers here. And gonna burn through a bunch of the energy from that shield battery as we have there's ship weapons and the fusion core starting up. So we are going to make our way to some Liberators with the advanced ballistics with that range, so that this Protoss army is going to be forced to make a little bit of a transition, possibly tech-wise. Oh, there it is, Kev, the Shadow Stride, one of my favorites.
Yeah, I bet ShoWTimE is happy that he can actually see that upgrade potentially finish up, because it didn't really look like it while that previous fight was going on, as he even lost 1 Colossi near an overcharged battery. Most of the time when you lose those units near those batteries, you know that the game is about to end, because then the Terran just has too much. Can we get a sick Nova? That is a decent Nova, as it flips a couple of Marines and Marauders. And this is going to be a fun one, Nate. I actually love the dance between the Liberators and Advanced Ballistics and Disruptors.
Yeah, no, this gets really interesting and really hectic, especially when we have, you know, like 7 Zealot, 5 Blink DT hit squads going over to the extreme, you know, the extremist bases on the outside of where the Terran can leave a lot of army. Planetary fortresses don't secure it either, so uThermal is going to have to keep tabs on where ShoWTimE is setting up his infrastructure and be ready to deal with this, because this army has just got so much in it that there's no one easy answer for it.
I feel that maybe uThermal, after killing that Prism, there was more potential there. If you would have kept his units a bit more together and maybe just get a couple of reinforcements and then keep pushing, because there was only 1 Colossus left. And ShoWTimE went so crazy on the work count, as we can see is still the case. He's got 91 probes. uThermal's army is bigger, but it is really hard to attack into a Protoss that's sitting on like 6 or 7 Disruptors. You just need to have Liberators for that.
Yeah, and those DTs coming in, they get the bunker and some of the Marines, but not really able to deal a blow to the economy. So that's still expensive to toss the DTs like that, even if you've got a good bank. But ShoWTimE's trying to reposition on the right side. Another massive warpaint of Dark Temple.
Oh, that's so sick. The Dark Templar is like, leave my prism alone. That's my home. I love
so
it.
funny. And these Marauders, doing chase little Benny Hill because they don't really kill DTs that well. And then the scan runs out. He's like, okay, yeah. not the best way that one could have shook out for uThermal.
That's so funny. The Marauders, first they get sent to the left side to kill our prism, and they're like, what are we doing here? Then 8 units get wiped in. It's like, we can scan. And the Marines get killed. It's like, all right, we are done. We can't kill our prism. We can't kill Dark Templars. Not our fight.
No. Sick EMP center mass on a lot of the Stalkers and the Colossus there. But this is what I was talking about. You got a bunch of Zealots to tank, send the DTs in to do the real damage on the economy while that's happening. I wouldn't have minded seeing him try to snipe the missile turret or the sensor tower as well. Both pretty good choices for forcing out extra scans. Does escape with some of the Dark Templar. I think that was really the change that catalyzed all of this. By the way, we have 2 sensor towers right next to each other. That is illegal pretty much everywhere. So you need to be very careful about doing stuff like that.
I gotta say, uThermal's doing a good job in not completely falling apart yet against the harass. Obviously, we're losing some SCVs here and there, but I think as long as you have 49 and you're maxed out and you've got all your infrastructure in place already, 49 SCVs is fine. I don't think you really need to have 78 SCVs at this point. It actually kind of helps uThermal that A, you can leave a couple of units behind to deal with run-bys, and B, he's got a massive army. So many DTs run into this army. Scan goes down. That's an adventurous blink, ShoWTimE. You're not going to get much value out of that blink. I know ShoWTimE is rich, but you can't do that too often.
I think it was the ghosts. I think he blinked on the ghosts. The ghosts are all dead. So some value there. I mean, the ghosts aren't cheap, I guess. But yeah, I agree with you. That's a very gutsy maneuver to even attempt. Even if it's worth it, that's still unbelievably risky. The disruption shots kind of zone away the north side of the army while the southwest is completely mopped up. ShoWTimE looking absolutely dominant now, Kev.
Yeah, that didn't even look remotely close. I mean, maybe killing the ghosts was a fantastic move in the end, but I think even if the ghosts are there, with the way the rest of the battle went, I don't believe that 2 or 3 ghosts really would have turned that fight around. uThermal maybe just getting a little bit too spread out. And where are the Liberators, Nate? Like, we've had advanced ballistics for like 5 minutes. I have not seen a single fight with liberation zones.
Yeah, definitely one of the hard parts about this is you make that investment into all that infrastructure, and hey, he's got +2 for the Liberators too, so if they were able to actually be a part of the fight, they're going to be 2-shotting almost all of these gateway units that ShoWTimE has. That's a big upgrade power spike that you get with +2 on those Liberators, but he's not been able to leverage that in any meaningful way. He can't defend this planetary because there's an endless amount of purification novas that have been coming at him, so instead of being able to use that base, all he can do is repair mine, and this army gets blown to smithereens. GG.
ShoWTimE looking mighty fine in these first 2 games. Definitely a bit worried about this one in the attack. I feel one more wave of Zealots could have maybe broken uThermal. It didn't. Then it was playable. And ShoWTimE made the crazy mistake with the weapons, and we're like, oh, maybe uThermal can do it. But in the end, it felt like it was never even really that close. ShoWTimE just kind of ran away with it. We'll see if the Dutchman can turn things around after this quick commercial break.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the DreamHack Masters StarCraft 2. I'm Nathanius, joined by Rotterdam, and we are currently sitting at a pretty comfortable 2-0 position for the German Protoss player, Kev. That last game, he just, I don't know, man. He took the worst fight ever, and then he was like, no, I can still find a way to win this one.
Yeah, that first fight when the War Prism went down, that wasn't very pretty. The second fight that we had later on towards the 5th base, I guess it was at that point from ShoWTimE, that one just went fantastic. uThermal's bio was kind of all over the place, and we blinked twice and it was just gone. Like, it just felt like the army didn't really work very well together. And what I was mostly surprised by is he had 150 army supply, Nate, but I didn't see any Liberators. And that just makes me sad, because there is no better unit, if you ask me, than the Liberators with advanced ballistics against everything that ShoWTimE had.
No, I completely 100% agree with you. I think they're the best Terran unit in the game, personally. We are loaded in to Oxide. In the northeast, we have the blue Terran player representing Team Liquid. He is uThermal.
And in the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of the German Protoss. A lot of people see him as the best Protoss in Europe for the previous couple of years. It is a ShoWTimE. A very early scout here by ShoWTimE. I wonder why that is. Maybe he's like, you know what, I know uThermal. I know that when uThermal goes down 0-2, he often just does a super random, ultra cheesy build. And if he does that, I want to get the heads up as quickly as possible. But we see that that's not the case, so.
Yeah, and these are the, I mean, when we talk about this map, you've got that kind of interesting cavern below the natural expansion. That's, I feel like late game weird stuff ends up happening here, but I like watching games that play out on Oxide. For some reason, we always get some weird stuff that goes down. This probe is just trying to be the most annoying probe ever, but almost dies instead.
Funny opening by uThermal. Goes reactor into expand, so no units at all. It's going to give him very quick access to 2 Marines. Every now and then a Terran player likes to go 1 Marine, 1 Reaper. So even though the Reaper is much later, it's still nice to have a Reaper out on the map and potentially see what's up on the other side of the map. But yeah, this could be a pretty wild opening coming out of the Dutchman, where maybe he just makes 6 Marines and a couple Hellions and runs those to the other side of the map straight into the natural, and A, get a good scout off, and B, try to take down a couple probes.
Yeah, a lot of work to do there. And, you know, I think it was like the mathematically calculated opener that theoretically it is better to go reactor first and then build 1 Reaper and 1 Marine than it is to go Reaper then reactor, because it saves you 1 unit worth of build time, basically. But obviously there's a lot of risk to that if you're playing against a Protoss who likes to do that proxy second gateway, or you just die. There's like pretty much nothing that you can do, because then the Protoss is like, oh, I could build shield batteries in your natural. There's nothing here. Well, there's some risk to it, but I guess ShoWTimE really isn't that guy, right? So those are maybe the kinds of concessions uThermal feels comfortable taking against him, since ShoWTimE just isn't a cheesy Protoss player.
Yeah, would not recommend this opening against Max Packs. You'd be in trouble.
I wouldn't do this one on the ladder. This is a good, I think this is a good tournament build. I think that's like, if you're like, oh yeah, this should be like a good, Swiss Army knife build. No, nah, you're gonna die to a lot of cheese. You're skipping that first Reaper, or the first Marine at least, for the reactor.
Well, let's see what uThermal decides to do, as he's getting a very quick tank. Is this going to be like 1 medevac? Do you think he opens medevac here and then just makes a push with Marine tank medevac? No,
yeah, I wouldn't hate it. Even with the Viking, I still don't think that it's a bad move. I think he could still do it, right? The Viking will poke away an early Oracle, but landed Vikings kill everything except Zealots for the most part. So I don't actually think they're even that bad to bring with any sort of attack if you want to.
I'm keeping a close eye on everything that's happening on the ShoWTimE side of the map. ShoWTimE really needs to see this army move out, and the Oracle does spot this army moving out. It seems that ShoWTimE wants to go up to 3 bases, but he should really change his mind, and that's exactly what he does. He has a pylon on the way there, though, and that's a little bit risky, because ShoWTimE actually really needs that pylon. Nate, he's supply blocked, and he's building one pilot at his third base that he's about to lose.
That's definitely not good. You need that supply. I don't know if he actually... Okay, he definitely had vision of it, but it's a little bit low priority, I guess, for him, and he may not realize how awesome it could have been for him to destroy it, but he's going to make his way up this natural ramp, poking that instead. Siege Tank is blasting away the shield battery, but he does need the vision up the ramp, and the units have to push their way up if they want to get there.
What a fight for ShoWTimE. Fighting in range of an overcharged battery. This is what sweet baby Protoss dreams are made of. It really doesn't get... No, why is he so scared? Units can die near that battery, ShoWTimE. I actually feel like he kind of wasted the battery there. Like, why was he afraid? There's not enough DPS there to ever kill a unit.
I'm not really sure that I completely understand that one either. And, you know, I wouldn't even have hated if he could squeeze a warp in from the back pylon that he never killed at that third to try and get the tank to shoot in a different direction, because I do think that uThermal has established way too good of a position now because of how slow ShoWTimE played that. 2 tanks, he's building a bunker, there's a medevac here, so these Marines are going to start to get back those hit points, and with the tank support, I don't really see Stalkers being able to do a whole lot, but that's pretty much all he's got, other than the Oracles killing SCVs back in uThermal's.
A lot of SCVs, Nate. 13 SCVs just went down, so uThermal is way more committed than he originally perhaps planned to be with his build. Another overcharge is activated. This time, please just stand your ground. Obviously, it's a bit harder against 2 tanks and a Viking, but if you use overcharge and you can fight with overcharge, yeah, against 2 tanks is hard. 1 tank was really not an issue. You know what's the worst thing for ShoWTimE? He completely forgot charge. Now he fires up charge, but I actually think he was just waiting, and he's like, any second now. That Twilight Council finished up a solid 2 minutes ago, and if he has like 7 Zealots here with charge, I think he easily wins the game.
Yeah, but unfortunately, he does not have that, and I do not see a very clear path to victory here. He's gonna have to fight with probes and stalkers, but there's just, when you reach the point where there's so many tanks that they can one-shot the stalkers in clumps, he recalls to the main, hey, but is he gonna wait for charge? Is that the plan right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the only plan he had. He could have actually had charge so long ago. I wanted to mention, but there were so many fights happening at once. The slow stalkers, the slow zealots, they don't do very well in these scenarios. ShoWTimE is still up 15 workers, but he's down a base, so that's kind of meaningless. The Oracles still have a lot of potential, though. They have a little bit of energy. They can kill way more units, as uThermal is just super all in. He's going to find the Twilight Council as well, and he's going to put some serious pressure on it. I don't think we have another overcharge available. ShoWTimE is about to roll over. There's no stopping this Terran army anymore. Nate, uThermal gets a W on the board.
Yeah, very well played. Very, very well played game here. The charge denial, absolutely massive. That was pretty much the only thing that he could have counted on. And like you said, he missed the opportunity to research it as soon as the Twilight Council finished. Got distracted by this attack, and uThermal never let up. So he does get, as you said, he gets that first dub on the board for himself, and it brings this series to a 2-1 position. Still nice, still favorable for ShoWTimE, but he loses a little bit of that comfort that he's afforded himself with a very well played first 2 maps.
Yep. I'm going over the replay real quick, because I remember he had a super early Twilight. The Twilight Council finished up 4 minutes and 4 seconds into the game. He started charge at the 6-minute mark. So there was a long window for ShoWTimE not only to research charge, but to actually have it finish up as well. But I don't even think that was the biggest mistake of all of it, Nate. I think the biggest mistake was that first fight ShoWTimE was taking down the ramp with his 1 Adept and his 3 Stalkers. He has an overcharged battery against 5 Marines and a tank. I was like, that's a dream fight. It doesn't get any better than that. And ShoWTimE somehow got super worried. He was losing units, so he kept running away. He kept trying to kite. But they're like hands off the keyboard at that point. You're riding the roller coaster. It's like, I'm Protoss, baby. Woohoo! The units stand there. They don't die. Yeah, that was very silly by ShoWTimE. Very, very silly.
Yeah, at some point, you got to be a bit decisive with when you're going to jump on top of that. I think, I mean, if your Oracles get free farm like that in a Terran mineral line, you could pull some probes with the Stalkers when there's only 1 tank, right?
That too, yep.
Dislodge the position. Don't let them build a bunker outside your base. The Viking can't really run from the Stalkers if he gets the tank. Sure, you might lose 10 probes, but you're not going to lose the game. And then, you know, if we're playing the hindsight game, then just research charge when the Twilight's done, and he wins that pretty comfortably.
Yep, there were two ways for ShoWTimE to convincingly win that game. One is just kind of get Twilight or get charged whenever you want it, but two is just stay near the overcharged battery, just fight. It's 5 Marines, no medevac as far as I remember, and even if there was a medevac, who cares? You're still draining it. Like, units don't die against 5 Marines and a tank, so that was definitely a missed opportunity. Anyways, he's still in the lead. He can still close it out, and he looked fantastic in the first 2 games. On the top left side of Romanticide, we're looking at the main base of the one and only ShoWTimE.
And his opponent in the southeast, after just picking up his first game, looking to tie this one up, he is uThermal.
I do think that this map is something that ShoWTimE feels very comfortable with in general. It's large. It, kind of encourages 3, 4, 5 base kind of strategies. And we know that that's where he shines. I wouldn't be surprised to see ShoWTimE go back to a Stargate opener. I think Phoenixes are excellent on this map. Oracles are alright as well. But I really think that this is a fantastic map for some Phoenix gameplay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, you've got a decent amount of airspace to work with here. Tell you what, it's not a bad one for the battle cruisers either, if it comes to that. If we're talking about meme builds with uThermal. However, I don't think that when you're down 1-2 in a best of 5 against D Mauer, that's the time to start trying to play your mech TVP builds either.
There was a time, actually, it was kind of his bread and butter, and uThermal actually felt very confident with mech against Protoss, but it didn't last very long.
Yeah, I tell you, the Void Ray buff surprisingly good against BCs. That was a little bit of a game changer, just a little bit. But I don't think we're gonna see any of that type of stuff anytime soon. It is a map with some pretty good defensible positions, though. It's not easy to just walk up outside the third, for example, and harass it. You kind of only just have this one main ramp here until you mine open the minerals. Otherwise, you got to go all the way around the back. And even that is still a bit risky because you have to move your army in a way that you can't really run home that easily if you need to. So Reaper pokes, Season Nexus, nothing surprising here. And that Stargate for ShoWTimE is I'm going to be interested to see which way he wants to go with that.
Yep, it's all the way in the back of the main base. So it's going to be a bit difficult for the Reaper to scout unless the Reaper truly wants to sacrifice its life for it. uThermal didn't really see the opening of ShoWTimE on Death Aura, but I think kind of figured it out based on the amount of units that he scouted. This time uThermal is checking around his natural, his main, and everything that's kind of close, just in case ShoWTimE is doing something a little bit funky. We know that that's not the case. And it actually seems to just be very macro-oriented indeed, with that first Oracle on the way.
Yeah. And a nice macro-oriented game is something that I could definitely go for myself here, Kev. It's been a nice series thus far. Some good back and forth, some good aggression, and some mishaps. Some big mishaps.
This is the kind of series that I'm like, I can't let it go. I can't let it go that the medevac died with the Hellions in the first game, and I can't let it go that ShoWTimE just not took a fight with 4 units against 6 units and an overcharged battery. I'm like, oh, like every now and then obviously we have the replays, right? Because we're watching these games. And I was a PvP of DreamHack NA last season where a player, not really going to call him out here, but left the main base while I felt if you don't do anything there, you win the game. So I resumed that replay as we see the Reaper and Hellion actually having a fantastic start here.
This is really nice.
Wow, this is so much damage. Getting 5 probes like this, and the Oracle is turning around as well, or 4 probes it is. Wow, what a start.
That's the kind of thing that should absolutely never happen. And well, the Oracle is still going to be having to make its way back out on the map again. But you were saying, Kev, I'm enthralled.
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, but TLDR, I was convinced that one player would have won if they would have done literally nothing other than just fight. So I resumed the game from yeah, I resumed the game from replay, and that player actually ended up losing a much longer game later on. So I resumed the game from replay, played against somebody who is pretty much as good as me. He was microing his heart out. I did nothing, took my hands off the keyboard and won the fight. And I was like, yeah. And I'm convinced that the same thing would happen with that ShoWTimE uThermal dynamic we just saw at the bottom of the ramp. I believe that if you don't do anything there, you win the fight.
You know, that just brings me back to game one of a Skillless series right earlier.
Yeah, it's like 5.
Is there a point in that match, in that long game, actually on this map where Manus died? I'm like, was there a moment where he could have A-moved and maybe won? I think so.
Yeah, that was obviously a bit more complicated. He would have to make more correct actions. Like the game that I resumed was literally like, that was it. Game-ending fight.
It was that bad.
Yeah, and I think if ShoWTimE just cleans up that push, you know, with the overcharged battery, I also think the game ends there because then the Oracles killed 20 workers. Anyways, we'll let it go. It's been a fun series that definitely leaves a lot to talk about. But let's see if ShoWTimE can make some magic happen here with his Blink Stalkers, as we have 11 of them. And there is an Oracle out as well that can obviously provide high ground vision. Nate, I see one tank, I see a bunker, but I also see just a couple of Marines. I see potential for these Stalkers.
Yes, sir. Now the tank can kind of zone out the bottom of the ramp, so he needs to blink up and then move south. 2 Marauders finish up. There's the Cyclone, so good pick off there. Don't think that he was necessarily ready for those finishing Marauders. I guess ideally, I'm kind of surprised at how much he's tried to trade against just the straight up bio, trying to kill these units. I was hoping for a little bit more of a dance, but he's going to walk away with not too much other than a few dead Marines, while a Raven drops auto turrets in that middle line, going to kill, looks like 4 probes at least. So
this is
and
good,
that's also
though.
buying time. No mining is happening there while those turrets are alive.
Yep, I mean, the lost mining time, 4 probes going down. One more cheeky turret perhaps in the main, or we can drop it in the third as well. Doesn't really matter as long as we keep the Raven alive. Yeah, uThermal is looking fantastic in this game. You know, I really can't blame ShoWTimE for blinking in the main when he did, because I actually didn't see the Cyclone and Marine at the bottom of the main either. And I don't think ShoWTimE saw it, so he's like, oh, that's it, 7 Marines, I can blink on top of that. And right when you blink in, it's like, okay, there's a Cyclone and a Marine there. It makes it a bit more complicated. And then 2 Marauders pop, you're like, damn it. Like all of a sudden, this blink wasn't that good.
Your 11 Stalkers magically turns to 5, and you ask yourself, where did it all go wrong?
It was only a blink. How did it end up like this?
It was only a blink. So we've got +1 attack finishing up for ShoWTimE. Still has the Oracle, so the opportunity to try and poke, or at the very least use Revelation, keep tabs on the Terran army is real. As I say that, uThermal actually slips these 2 medevacs out the right side. They did not get spotted, and sometimes that Revelation can give you Protoss a false sense of security, Kev. If he thinks...
I like this move. Yep. I like this move. uThermal dropping by on top of these Stalkers. ShoWTimE needs to pay attention. He's not paying attention yet. He is going to blink in the end, but he's going to lose at least, I think, 3 Stalkers. It's been 2 so far. Can we tag 1 more? Yes, we can. uThermal's having definitely his best game of the series. Nate, look at that train of blue that's making its way to the other side of the map. And this time, ShoWTimE doesn't have those powerful Protoss units, but he does have a crap ton of Zealots.
That is, I was going to say, I'm like, the blue wave looks impressive, but that is a whole lot of Zealots, Kev. 4 siege tanks won't help too much against that. The Dorito Cannon is going to land largely on the Stalkers. Some of the Zealots get hit by it, but that is just way too many charge lots to directly engage. Coming back behind these rocks, I do love that.
Yeah.
Tries to target fire down the Stalkers, but as long as the Immortal is alive, he's got some power units still left here. The charged Zealots are... Yeah, now it sounds like a comical number of Zealots that he takes. A comical number of Zealots. I heard this unit was pretty good. Let's just, you know, Zealot printer go brrrr.
It's fun. uThermal definitely made a great move indeed, picking up those units, dropping it on the other side of the rocks. I don't think he ever expected ShoWTimE to just run into him, because he probably didn't expect ShoWTimE to have 30+ Zealots. Now, that may have seemed good for ShoWTimE. I'm not sure if it was good enough. Now, the SCVs have been pulled as well. Even though there are triple command centers out, the SCV's taking a very weird route. uThermal is going for it. He's like, you've got no Storm, you've got no Colossi. This is the moment where I think the boys can make the difference. And one Archon is like, damn it, this is my job, right? I need to provide the splash damage. We've got 1 Archon, the second one is finishing up. Can ShoWTimE hold, Nate?
You're gonna need multiple. He's got a couple batteries. Even with an overcharge, I'm not sure the Archon can handle all that firepower on its own. Immortal actually gets cut off at the main base, surrounded by SCVs. Citizens arrest on that Immortal. Keep him away from the siege tanks. Now the rest of the Zealots are going to come over with the Archons from the right side. Another big warping of charge lots is going to come in behind that. The SCVs are not really buffering because they're going to fight that Immortal. So these units are able to get on top of the forces of uThermal, and he's going to pull some probes. 1 tank does get killed, but the next wave of bio reinforcements is here. And this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, Roddy. All the medevacs being here and still alive is such a crucial component to healing these units, allowing him to stay and fight over and over nonstop. With just a 15 health on that Immortal. I'm not sure if he can
uThermal still needs to be careful. The Dutchman is doing it, but he still needs to be careful, Nick, because one more stim and 3 Zealots can actually take care of the Marines. And if the Marines fall, everything else falls as well. So uThermal's really trying to get the best trade possible here. All the tanks have now gone down. Look at how low HP the bio is. Can ShoWTimE find one more warp in somewhere? If he chrono boosts all the gateways, I actually think ShoWTimE has held. Are you kidding me? Yep,
oh my God.
Be forced to stim away. That is an insanely well handled attack by ShoWTimE.
How the hell did he not die there? Good God.
Because he's demoted.
He's got 45 probes to 9 SCVs.
That is insane. Yeah, we're going to wipe in an Archon as well, and the Archon is going to be so tanky here. 2 Archons even. uThermal pulled all the SCVs there with 10 SCVs at home. There is no transitioning. There's no coming back in his game. He needed to win the game right there and then. ShoWTimE with the sickest hold of the day. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. Wow.